Unreal conditionals in the past.
In this lesson, we're going to talk about unreal conditionals in the past. I'd like to tell you a little bit about my past, so let's try this activity. I'll show you different flags of different countries. When I show you a flag, you tell me the country, and then I'll tell you something that happened to me or something that I did in that country. Okay? So let's start. Here's the first flag. I think you know that this is the Japanese flag, the flag of Japan. Now in college I studied Japanese for 2 years. I had been to Japan once before, but for a very short time. After college I wanted to go there and teach English. I applied to a program and they rejected me, so I didn't go. If I had lived in Japan, I would have learned more Japanese. So let's try the next one. This is the Russian flag, the flag of Russia. So I didn't go to Japan, I went to Russia. I had been there 3 times before, and the 4th time was when I finished my graduate work. If I hadn't gone back to Russia, I wouldn't have met my husband. So I'm glad I went back to Russia. Okay, let's try a third. Do you know this one? This is the flag of Belgium, the Belgian flag. I'm not the only one who married outside my culture. My friend married a Belgian. If my friend hadn't married a Belgian, I wouldn't have visited Brussels. And here's one more. Do you know this one? This is the flag of the Philippines, the Filipino flag. My father actually is from the Philippines, and I visited there when I was a little girl, and I met all my relatives, but I didn't speak Tagalog, and that's a shame because I couldn't speak much with my relatives. If I had learned Tagalog, I would have talked more with my relatives. If you were listening closely, then you heard the verb tenses and the 2 clauses. Again, in our if statements, we have 2 parts. There's the if clause, which states a condition, and the result clause. In the if clause, I was using the past perfect. If I had lived in Japan, if I hadn't gone to Russia, if my friend hadn't married a Belgian, if I had learned Tagalog. If clause uses the past perfect in these unreal conditionals in the past. The result clause had would have plus the past participle. We can also switch the clauses around and the meaning doesn't change. We could also make either clause negative. It's important to understand that these unreal conditionals in the past are untrue situations. They talk about a past that never happened. So let's back up to those examples I originally presented and talk about what is the truth and what is not the truth. For example, let's go back to Japan. I said, if I had lived there, I would have learned more Japanese. Truth, I didn't live there. Truth, I didn't learn more Japanese. Okay, let's try the other one. About Russia. If I hadn't gone back to Russia, I wouldn't have met my husband. Truth, I did go back to Russia. Truth, I did meet my husband. And the Belgian flag, if you remember, I told you that if my friend hadn't married a Belgian, I wouldn't have visited Brussels. Truth, my friend married a Belgian. And truth, I did visit Brussels. And the last one, I talked about the Philippines, and I said that if I had learned Tagalog, I would have talked more to my relatives. Truth, I didn't learn Tagalog. Truth, I didn't talk much with my relatives. So let's continue our activity. I'll show you 3 more flags. This time, when I tell you a statement, I want you to tell me what the truth is. All right? This is the British flag, flag of England. If my childhood home had been Buckingham Palace, I would have had few friends, but a lot of room to play. Okay. So what's the truth? Did I live in Buckingham Palace as a child? No. Did I have few friends as a child? No. I'm happy to say I had plenty of friends. Okay. Here's the next one. This is the flag of the Bahamas, the Bahamian flag. Immediately after college, I wanted a break from academics, so I worked in the cruise line industry. I had seen an ad on a bulletin board, I responded to the ad, and I ended up on a cruise ship in the Bahamas, and it was a wonderful few months. I really enjoyed that time. If I hadn't seen that ad, I wouldn't have spent time in the Bahamas. So what's the truth? Did I see an ad? Yes, I did. Did I spend time in the Bahamas? Yes, I did. So here's the third flag. This is the flag of Mexico, the Mexican flag. I took a trip to Mexico earlier this year, and I knew some basic words and phrases, but I didn't know any Spanish. If I had known Spanish, I would have had more conversation with Mexicans. So what's the truth? When I took my trip to Mexico, did I know Spanish? No. And did I have lots of conversation with Mexicans? No. Okay, so I hope you understand now that when we're using these unreal conditionals, we're talking about a past that never happened. They are untrue statements. So let's list the reasons why we use the unreal conditionals in the past. We might, as I said, be talking about an untrue situation, and that's because we want to emphasize a connection between events. For example, about the Bahamas, I said, if I hadn't seen the ad, I wouldn't have spent time in the Bahamas. There's a connection. I saw the ad, I got the job in the Bahamas. We might also be using these unreal conditionals to talk about an unreal situation, meaning an imaginary situation. We'd like to dream a little and think about how things could have been. For example, about England, I said, if my childhood home had been Buckingham Palace. So what I'm trying to do is imagine what my childhood could have been like if I had lived in Buckingham Palace. Okay? A third reason why we might use these unreal conditionals is to express a regret. For example, if I had known more Spanish, I would have had more conversation with Mexicans. That's a regret of mine. So up to now, we've talked about using only the past perfect in the if clause. We can also make the if clause progressive. So I'd like to share an example. Do you remember this flag? It's the flag of Russia. And I told you that if I hadn't gone to Russia, I wouldn't have met my husband. Here's a detail about the day that we met. It was raining, and we had to walk from the metro station to an office. So we shared an umbrella, and it was a very nice walk. If it hadn't been raining, we wouldn't have shared a very pleasant walk under the same umbrella.
That's the end of part 1. Be sure to join me for the second half of this lesson on unreal conditionals in the past.